one of the questions that she may ask you, depending on your process, is like, what do you need at like a certain moment in the process? There's a very, you're already like deeply in it. And it's like, what do you need? And I literally, she kept asking me because that's part of this process and it was perfect just as it went. And I literally felt this anger and like rage come up in me. I don't know what I need. And that was absolutely perfect. There's a voice saying, oh my God, you just yelled at your healer. Like, don't yell at your healer. But then there's another part that's going, no, that was absolutely perfect because you're honoring your truth in this moment and she can handle it. She can hold space for even the deepest of places inside of me.
Welcome. I'm here with Mandy Munzer.
Yes.
This is crazy. The universe is so wonderful when it just does its thing. I sent out an email that I'd been meaning to send out for years. I literally had not stayed in touch with my people, right? And I get this text from Mandy that I know from Los Angeles. And she sends me this little tiny map that says I'm, a mile and a half away from you?
Yeah. No, I get to Nashville. I randomly am opening my email. I'm sitting on the porch with my cousin, like chatting, and then I was like, oh, I should just check to make sure this client hasn't gotten back to me yet. And I just glanced, and the very first email was her email from just like a few hours earlier. And then I go, oh yeah, she's in Tennessee now. And I go to scroll to the bottom of the email to find your address. And I was like, Googling it. I'm like, I'm 12 minutes away. This is insane. So the universe,
here we are now. The universe brought her
day.
here today, and Mandy had found me in Los Angeles about 3 years ago, and right at the beginning of 2020.
It was right before the shutdown.
Yeah,
oh gosh,
I know. And you had done my process, and what had you been struggling with before you did the process? You have an amazing background in movement therapy. You coordinate fitness at UCLA. You help
private coaching.
You do private coaching and help facilitate energy breaks at like really high-end healing events. And you also help women deal with eating disorders and process through those things.
Yes.
So what were you struggling with prior to our working together?
So I was in a place where I was in kind of the baby steps of my business and feeling like, man, I've already done all of this like inner healing work, but I am like clearly not aligning with what I say I want to do. So it's like, I said I wanted to expand my business. I said I wanted to serve more people, but then clearly behaviorally I wasn't matching that. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, okay, I guess there's more, more inner healing to do. No matter how much inner healing you've already done, there's always like another layer or, something to explore. And I also really realized I need to stop thinking of it that way of like, there's more, because there's always going to be more. And that's part of, life. And then it was also a synchronicity of how I found you in the first place. And that story can be for another time.
Seems like a lot of synchronicities happening.
Oh, very, very much, very much.
And isn't it beautiful when it happens?
Very beautiful. Well, and it just gives you that affirmation like, oh yeah, I'm definitely supposed to meet this person. Like this person's coming to my life for a very specific reason. And when I found out that you do this rapid transformation therapy process, I was like, oh yes, okay. I think I really want to do that. And I had some very powerful sessions with you.
So what was the feeling that you were rubbing up against that was uncomfortable, that you wanted to solve prior to the session? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think there's like an overall sense of like stuckness. Mm-hmm. Like I was buried in my own fear to move forward. And some of it was conscious and some of it was subconscious. And
at what point in the session did you realize this is working for me?
Well, probably at the point where I was in like the fetal position. Like, I'm just kidding.
No, you had
not to scare you if you're like, oh God, I don't want to be in the fetal position crying.
Well, you had trauma that went way back, so it was understandable that you took a position that was appropriate for that time. Yeah. Do you want to describe what that was like?
Yeah. So in these sessions, every session is different, of course, for each individual, and at the same time, no matter who does these sessions, I think will have a deep experience of helping to trace back, because everything's energy. So if currently in my adult life I was experiencing energetic blocks towards moving forward in a way that felt aligned for me, it's like tracing that feeling back to help come to like an original place of where did that energy get created. And in that process, it was clear, one of the questions that she may ask you, depending on your process, is like, what do you need at like a certain moment in the process? There's a very, you're already like deeply in it. And it's like, what do you need? And I literally, she kept asking me because that's part of this process, and it was perfect just as it went. And I literally felt this anger and like rage come up in me. I don't know what I need. And that was absolutely perfect. There's a voice saying, oh my God, you just yelled at your healer. Like, don't yell at your healer. But then there's another part that's going, no, that was absolutely perfect because you're honoring your truth in this moment, and she can handle it. She can hold space for even the deepest of places inside of me. And it helped me to basically come face to face with this part of me that as a young child didn't know what she needed and didn't know how to get those needs met, and definitely didn't know, nobody else around her, no parent or authority figure knew how to help her either. And so there was this almost this learned helplessness energy. And that, I think, was what the energetic block was in my adult life. Like, there was a sense of helplessness instead of empowerment.
Yeah.
And so to go back and really minister to that little girl who just felt helpless, that not only did she not know what she needed or how to help herself, but no other adult did either. And feeling like I'm just alone in this pain and nobody can help me. Where do I go from here? That like loneliness of feeling helpless with your own issues was definitely kind of like rearing its ugly head in adulthood in this circumstance where I'm like, pure-heartedly trying to move forward with my passions and purpose. And I know that that's my destiny, and yet I'm like running up against this wall. So I feel like the sessions absolutely 1000% help dissolve like a large amount of that energy, and it's like it dissolved and resolved and was taken back into nothingness from whence it came. And from the healing process, it was still like, it wasn't like overnight all of a sudden, and the next day I like did all the things for my business and I exploded.
The clouds and elevated to the
right. But over the next few years, I certainly saw things finally create movement and
Wonderful.
Like break through a lot of that. And so, but having that healing was certainly a big impetus to getting everything moving again. Fabulous. And not being in that stuck place, completely paralyzed in fear.
Yeah. And earlier you were telling me the state that you were in afterwards and what you went and did. Yeah. Would you like to share that? That was a fun story. In fact, I remember you were so sweet. You ran out to the local jewelry store. Do you remember that? I still have that. In fact, I should have put it on before this. But hematite
and a blue stone.
It was selenite.
It was selenite.
And a blue stone. And I don't remember what the blue stone was.
I was so moved by the healing that I had experienced. And like, bless this woman's heart, because like she had a whole like lot of energy for me.
I had to go tell the office people, sorry for the noise.
Yeah, like not to make myself special, but I feel like I have a lot of energy.
Well, and you were there was a little girl there that really needed to express.
Yeah, and there's something I'm
totally perfect.
Thank you.
We live for this kind of stuff.
Right, absolutely.
Because that's your transformation, and that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And some people have big loud ones, and lots of people have much smaller ones. And they're always profound, but they definitely are always quite so vocal.
Absolutely. Well,
and if they are, that's great.
And that's the thing. Like that's just kind of who I am as a soul and a being. I'm very expressive. I've had therapists tell me that I'm like, it was a backhanded compliment. She really meant it as a compliment. She's like, dear, I just want you to put in perspective that out of all the clients I've seen, and she was like 60 at this point, she's like, you are the deepest feeler that I've had in the chair across from me. And I'm like, oh. And she didn't mean it in a bad way. she wasn't judging it, but it helped me to understand that on a spectrum of like humans feeling, because we all feel, I think feel exceptionally deeply. So then that also comes out vocally sometimes.
So when you left,
I was so filled with like this, I'm not kidding, insane, extraordinary amount of love and compassion because I had gone back to the little girl that was hurting and really gave her a deep level of love through your facilitation, that my cup was so full. I felt like I was just like transformed into the, like I was walking on clouds. I was, and then I was just seeing the whole world through these eyes of deep love. I didn't even know what to do with myself. It's like I simultaneously saw how off the deep end I was, but in a good way, and at the same time was totally in it. And I just wanted to literally go down the street and just like grab everyone and be like, I love you. I love you. I love you. But what stood out to me, it was, it was like a work week day. And so there wasn't like a lot of people out on the street. And there was one homeless man that was clearly disassociated and not, doing well. And that my energy just gravitated towards him. And I've had different conversations with homeless people before, but I don't know, this was just different where I just felt this pull, like you need to speak with this man right now. And because I was so over the brim full with just this deep love and compassion and healing energy that I had gifted to myself, it was just pouring over. And so it just felt very natural. It wasn't like an act of charity. It was genuinely just like, I have to go speak with this man. And I remember just intuitively sensing that really what this man needed, more than food, more than water, more than money, was connection. And because I was in such a deep state of that myself, I was able to really help him come out of like this trance he was in. And I remember like at first he was still just like this. And then all of a sudden when he realized energetically that I was actually wanting to genuinely connect with him, it's like I saw him come back into his body and it's like his eyes finally connected and it felt like such a pure exchange, and I was just able to show him a certain amount of like love and emotional availability that, if you think about it, so many people on the street, sure, they really appreciate when they get food, when they get water, and that's obviously a deep level of compassion too, but how many times are they actually like having human connection?
Right. So translating that into your work and what you were trying to accomplish, what would you describe as the biggest energetic, emotional shift between before the session and after the session as you took that into your work?
Well, I did 3 sessions.
Yes.
And all 3 were very powerful. And I felt that I definitely just had a much deeper connection with my little girl. I had already established some lines of communication with her through, my spiritual psychology program.
Right.
But it's like those 3 sessions really just took it to another level so that I could, I really feel that there's a profound principle of if we can reconnect with parts of self that are hurting or feeling in any way alienated, because basically we all have parts of ourselves that we judge and we don't even know that we're doing it sometimes. Like I was talking with a client the other day who was like, when she was a teenager, she judged herself for not following the rules and getting herself into a lot of trouble. But then in going back, she realized, oh my gosh, that was actually the part of me that was really seeking to save me. And that rebel that I branded as bad or wrong was the very part of me that is my greatest healer and my greatest advocate. So I was integrating, I feel like I integrated parts of self that were like, metaphorically speaking, parts of me that were literally in the corner, in the closet, feeling ashamed, and were able to like heal that part of me so that I could then reintegrate fully into a more whole self that could walk into the world and do things in the world in a way that all of me is on board.
Beautiful.
And I think that, of course, we have these incredible healings that then keep moving us forward. But I still, to this day, like I could work with you 3 more sessions and
absolutely. We all could.
Yeah. So there's always some part of self
Well, it's funny. You take off a layer, and it's like it feels so much
lighter,
yeah, and nicer to be more authentically yourself, and just connect with all that is. And
Absolutely.
Isn't that kind of the name of the game?
Absolutely. Well, and that's what I would say that for anyone listening, like, even if you don't have like some crisis or you're not like feeling like so stuck like I was, the sessions that she facilitates are going to help you literally anytime, any phase of your life, even when you're feeling good. There's just healing available to us that we don't even realize is available. And until we actually take the time to intentionally go to a healer such as this wonderful, amazing Kara, then we don't even realize what we're missing. We don't even realize like the freedom that's available to our souls, that's available energetically. Yeah, I think a lot of people just settle thinking, well, this is just life and I have to go through it kind of like half dead.
Right.
You don't have to go through it half dead.
Well, the brain, as you know, the reptilian brain likes what's familiar. So even if what's familiar is awful, it's going to default to that just because it's like an energy saving device.
Exactly.
And a safety device. It's a false safety device, and it's actually guiding you to what's making your life exhausting.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, we do tend to default to it unless we upgrade ourselves and see a better way.
Absolutely. And it's usually through these portals where, yes, we need to feel to heal. And that's scary for a lot of people to feel. But what's on the other side of it, and even in the feeling, like you take me back 20 years ago, I didn't even know it, but I was not feeling much. The second I stopped being afraid to feel and started letting myself do it, at first it felt very scary because it felt like, am I ever gonna, these feelings are just like, whoa. But then once it's like I got more and more used to them, I actually fell in love with feeling. And feeling is like...
Because once you communicate with them and dance with them, they will actually guide you to where you need to go.
And now I can like go
but
into...
But if we fight them and press them down and ignore them, and they just...
Yeah, they're monsters in our closet that are going to rear their ugly head sideways. And that's what happens. I see it all the time. And I see it with love and compassion. I don't like judge people when they're doing it. But when you see family members like expressing anger in a way that's like very unproductive, or it's like they're taking it out on a situation that has nothing to do with what the real pain is about.
So true with relationships. In fact, a very wise person we both love and adore said no two people have ever met each other.
Oh.
Which is true, because everybody's living in their own filter and projecting that on somebody else. So it's the more authentically you can connect with somebody without filters that are being triggered from the past, the more delicious the experience and authentic it becomes.
Absolutely. And also have the awareness of like, okay, like this just happened yesterday to me. I was finishing up this retreat and I could tell there was a part of me that was like a little triggered, but I had the self-awareness to know that like, oh, okay, that part of me is present. So I need to send that part of me love. I need to know that what this person is doing, like, you know, we perceive that someone's doing something to us, but that's never the case. Our egos don't like that. What? They're not doing it to me? I'm doing this to myself?
When you can make the switch that it's actually a mirror and there's something there to see, boy, does that get powerful.
Yeah, a little confronting to say the least. So it's like...
And what did you learn from this fellow triggering you?
Well, it was a woman.
Okay.
Well, in that projection style of work. So I felt cut off. Like I felt like I was trying to express and then I got like cut off and they weren't available to that part of me. So then I was looking at ways that, you know, when do I do that to myself? And where in my life am I having feelings that then I'm actually just kind of saying, no, that's enough. And in our everyday lives, it's a little bit of a paradox because you walk out into the world and people ain't got time for your feelings. And society just like jobs I ain't got time to like have you emotional. So I think right now we're in an interesting period in time where we're all learning. Emotions are a luxury because if you're in survival mode, emotions are going to happen in survival mode, but no one's actually like trying to heal or be in like healing space with emotions when you're in survival. Because it's just like, I got to eat, I got to breathe, I got to find shelter. Like that's the only thing we're thinking about. And it's like, just get me through the day.
And the immune system is down, the hormonal system is down, the digestive system is down. Not a good space to be in long term.
No, and quite honestly, that's where most people are all the time.
Yeah.
There's really a small percentage of the planet that actually has the luxury to go, what's happening with me? What's going on? Oh, I'm going to have a session to explore my emotions. Because what I mean by that is I'm grateful that we're at a time in history where we can greatly benefit from learning about our emotional and energetic bodies, because there's so much available to us in this space that we just haven't even tapped into. And I know, like, there's no way I'm even in this lifetime going to tap into all that I can. But just to say, giving ourselves our parents didn't necessarily have, it wasn't.
It's nice to be in a position to have the tools and to be able to prioritize getting in touch and aware of what this really is and how do we interface with it and dialogue with it and experience it in a way that lifts the layers off.
Right.
Because it's so easy to go through with blinders your entire life.
Totally. And
I mean,
so much is available to us now.
I wish I had discovered this stuff when I was 20. I mean,
exactly.
Granted, I was still way ahead where most people were, but there was just so much to dive into and experience and learn from.
I find that even though I'm half their age, like I help people that are in their 60s, 70s, because they didn't have the opportunity to do this healing work.
And how do people find out more about the movement therapy that you do? Where do they email? Where do they go?
Email, honestly, I think is best. So Mandy Menzer, Muenzer, so MandyMuenzer @gmail.com, gmail.com. I do have an Instagram account. It's called Embodied Wisdom Lab, LAB. But email is great. Like, just old-fashioned email.
So if anybody wants a energy facilitator for an event that they're doing, you help energize people and get them in the present moment, connected to their bodies.
Yes. So like at conferences,
which is why you were here.
This is why I came out to Nashville in the first place. And it's like, okay, there's a conference. They're gonna have speakers, the keynote, and all that. But in order for everybody in the audience to fully be receptive to the material, dancing is shown by the New England Journal of Medicine to increase mental acuity by 76%. Mm-hmm. So if we're moving our bodies, if we take a few deep breaths, if we have a nice fun song on, or a mellow song that helps us get, drop more into our center, then we're going to be that much more ready to receive the learning that we're there to receive. So I'm that person that helps kind of warm you up for the information
and true in our own lives too. It's like I was out in my rebounder this morning before we start our day at a desk doing any kind of processing. We want to be alive and connected to our bodies, right?
Yes, and that's the other message that I'm super passionate about, is to get away from, I think there's a lot of association with exercise, almost as an obligation on a list of things to do, versus, this is a vehicle for energetic release so that I can feel better. And it doesn't have to be these crazy workouts that feel torturous. It's really about, how do I master moving energy? And then I think that reframe really helps people have a more positive relationship with fitness, because then they're not viewing it as
I'm going to throw out a story. I was at an event with Lisa Nichols.
Oh, nice.
And she actually did African dance with all of us before, and people went berserk for it, because here we were, 15 people in a room. It was small, but we were all, pounding our feet, and it was like this giant heartbeat. Yeah. So everybody was united. Everybody was, it was ecstatic. So yes, that physical, connected community.
We create coherence.
Yeah. Coherence. I love it. Yes. I'm going to love coherence.
Yeah.
Anybody that follows this knows Joe Dispenza. I have done many of his live events and totally appreciate what he's doing to show how the science of coherence is producing amazing outcomes with the microbiome, with the blood levels, the immune markers, and the healings that are associated. He's measuring brain waves that are 50 standard deviations from normal, 100, 200. I mean, this is unheard of. The scientists are like, oh my gosh, we've never seen anything like this before. And he's letting the science speak for itself, which is just So beautiful, and I
So
can't.
beautiful.
It's going to be really interesting to see where we go in the next few
It
years.
really is.
Thank you so much for coming, and I'm grateful for the universe for.
Life force energy
I
was
mean,
like, these
just
two need to meet.
Literally, we had not talked in a few years or thereabouts, and I get this text from you last night at like
Yeah,
9,
10
10
or-
o'clock.
yeah. And like, just a shot in the dark, but I just mapped you out. You're 12 minutes
I'm
away.
12 minutes away anyway. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. And if you like this interview and found it valuable, please click like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.